What if I told you that someone can understand English very well, read it easily, and even score high marks in exams, yet still feel afraid to speak a single sentence in front of others? Imagine knowing the right words in your mind but feeling completely frozen when people look at you and expect you to speak. This happens to more people than you think. Today I want to share the story of a girl who stayed silent for years, even though she understood English quite well. Her life started changing the moment she made one small decision that most people ignore. Many learners believe that speaking English fluently depends only on grammar and vocabulary. They feel that once they learn enough rules and difficult words, speaking will automatically become easy. However, the real barrier is rarely grammar. The real barrier is confidence. Fear of making mistakes stops people from opening their mouths. Fear of being judged by others makes them overthink every sentence. Fear of embarrassment forces them to stay quiet even when they clearly understand the conversation. This is the story of Violet, a student who understood English very well but avoided speaking it for a long time. Her journey proves that transformation begins when you stop waiting for perfection and start taking small steps toward courage. The silent battle inside Violet. Violet had been learning English since her early school years. She could read articles, understand lessons, and even follow English movies without much difficulty. Her teachers often appreciated her written work, and during exams she consistently scored strong marks in English subjects. Anyone looking at her results would naturally assume that she spoke English with confidence. But reality was very different. Whenever someone asked her to speak in English, something strange happened. Her mind suddenly felt blank. The sentences she had practiced many times in her head seemed to disappear. Her heart started beating faster, and she became very conscious of every person around her. Simple sentences felt heavy. She would start thinking about grammar rules, pronunciation, and whether people might laugh at her mistakes. Because of this constant overthinking, speaking became a stressful experience instead of a natural conversation. Gradually, Violet created a habit that felt safe. She stayed quiet. During classroom discussions, she listened carefully but rarely raised her hand. When friends spoke in English, she smiled and nodded instead of sharing her thoughts. In group activities, she allowed others to lead the conversation while she remained in the background. Over time, people began forming opinions about her. Some classmates thought she was extremely shy. Others assumed that her English might not be strong enough to express ideas clearly. A few people even stopped asking for her opinion because they believed she preferred silence. But inside Violet, the situation was very different. She often had ideas she wanted to share. Sometimes she even prepared sentences in her mind before discussions began. Yet when the moment arrived, fear stopped her voice before the first word could come out. This silent struggle slowly started affecting her confidence. She began questioning herself and wondering if she would ever feel comfortable speaking English in front of others. Deep inside, one realization started growing stronger. Knowing English was not the problem. The real challenge was finding the courage to finally speak. The moment that hurt her confidence. One afternoon, Violet's class had an important group discussion. The teacher divided the students into small teams and gave them a topic to talk about in English. Everyone in the group was expected to share at least one idea. For most students, this activity felt normal, but for Violet it created a quiet storm inside her mind. As the discussion started, her teammates began sharing their thoughts one by one. Some spoke confidently while others struggled a little, yet they still tried. Violet listened carefully to every sentence. While listening, she actually thought of a very good point that could help her team. In her mind, she repeated the sentence several times. She knew exactly what she wanted to say. For a brief moment she even considered raising her hand and speaking. Her heart started beating faster as she gathered the courage to open her mouth. However, just before she could say the first word, doubt entered her mind. What if her grammar was wrong? What if she pronounced a word incorrectly? What if everyone noticed her mistake? Those thoughts stopped her. So, she stayed silent again. A few seconds later, something unexpected happened. One of her classmates shared the exact same idea that Violet had been holding in her mind. The teacher immediately appreciated the point and praised the student for contributing a thoughtful answer. The group members nodded in agreement and continued the discussion. Violet sat there quietly, staring at her notebook. Inside her mind, one painful sentence repeated itself again and again. That was my idea. It was not the first time this had happened, but that moment felt different. For the first time she clearly realized what her silence was costing her. It was not only about speaking English anymore. It was about losing opportunities to express her thoughts, share her ideas, and show her real ability. She walked home that day with a heavy feeling in her chest. The problem was no longer just fear. The real problem was that her fear was slowly taking control of her voice and her confidence. And deep down she knew that if nothing changed, this silence might follow her for many years. The decision that changed everything. That evening Violet could not stop thinking about what had happened during the discussion. The moment when someone else received praise for the idea she had in her mind kept replaying again and again. It was not anger that she felt. It was disappointment in herself for staying silent when she had the chance to speak. For the first time she asked herself an honest question. How long would she continue living like this? She realized that waiting for confidence had not helped her at all. For years she had believed that one day she would suddenly feel ready to speak English. Yet that day never arrived. The fear remained because she had never truly faced it. That night Violet made a small but powerful decision. She promised herself that she would start speaking English every day, even if her sentences were simple and imperfect. Instead of worrying about what other people might think, she decided to begin with a private practice that no one else would see. She opened the voice recorder on her phone and started speaking in English for 2 minutes every night. During the first few days it felt uncomfortable. Sometimes she stopped in the middle of a sentence because she could not find the right word. At other times she noticed mistakes in her grammar. But instead of judging herself, she continued the habit. Day after day she kept recording short conversations with herself. She talked about her day, her thoughts, and simple topics around her. Gradually she became more familiar with hearing her own voice in English. Without realizing it, Violet was slowly training her mind to become comfortable with speaking. And for the first time, the fear that once controlled her voice began to lose its strength. The confidence that finally appeared. Weeks passed, and Violet continued her small daily habit without missing a day. What started as an uncomfortable exercise slowly became a normal part of her routine. Speaking to her phone no longer felt strange. Instead, it became a space where she could express her thoughts without fear or pressure. As the days turned into weeks, Violet noticed something interesting. Her sentences started flowing more naturally. She paused less while speaking, and the words came to her mind more quickly. Even when she made mistakes, she no longer felt embarrassed because she had learned that mistakes were simply part of learning. However, the real test had not happened yet. One day in class, the teacher again asked students to share their opinions during a discussion. Violet felt the familiar nervous feeling in her chest, but this time it was different. Instead of completely freezing, she remembered the many evenings she had spent practicing. She quietly told herself one simple sentence: "Just speak." When her turn came, Violet took a small breath and shared her idea in English. Her voice was not very loud and her sentence was not perfect, but she spoke clearly enough for everyone to understand. Something surprising happened. No one laughed. No one criticized her. In fact, her classmates listened to what she said and continued the conversation based on her point. The teacher even nodded in appreciation. At that moment, Violet realized an important truth. The fear that had controlled her for years existed mostly in her mind. The moment she finally spoke, that fear began to disappear. Her English was not flawless, yet her confidence had started to grow. And that single moment became the beginning of a completely new version of Violet. Violet's story shows an important truth. Confidence does not appear suddenly. It grows when you decide to face your fear and start taking small actions every day. Violet did not wait for perfect grammar or perfect sentences. She simply started speaking. Many people keep waiting until their English becomes perfect before they speak. But confidence and fluency grow only through practice. The moment you start speaking, your transformation begins. If this story inspired you, write in the comments, "I will start speaking today." Like this video if you believe confidence is more important than perfection. Share this video with someone who understands English but feels afraid to speak. Subscribe to this channel for more videos that will help you speak English with confidence and clarity. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.